The U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime: Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's.
On Candace Owens' show, she unpacks a seismic rupture within the MAGA movement after the U.S. bombed Iranian nuclear sites. America's promised no new wars pledge shattered overnight. Who benefits when Trump praises Netanyahu before his own troops? The divide between Israel first and America first doesn't just threaten politics, it questions patriotism itself. Let's break this down.
Nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace.
The U.S. just wiped out Iranian sites and swiftly declared peace must follow, yet bombing as peace policy exposes the hypocrisy of defense rhetoric masking aggressive agendas.
If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue. I want to thank and congratulate Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. We worked as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before. And we've gone a long way to erasing this horrible threat to Israel. I want to thank the Israeli military for the wonderful job they've done. And most importantly, I want to congratulate the great American patriots who flew those magnificent machines tonight, and all of the United States military on an operation the likes of which the world has not seen in many, many decades. Hopefully, we will no longer need their services in this capacity. I hope that's so. I also want to congratulate.
Okay, so after giving this speech justifying the strikes, he then goes on and he says that he would like to thank and congratulate Bibi Netanyahu. That's who he thanked and congratulated first. What he was thanking him for, what he was congratulating him for.
Trump's priority thanks Netanyahu before his own troops, signaling where loyalties lie and igniting MAGA's fracturing debate over whose interests America is really fighting for.
I'm still a little iffy on the details. If you've got something, please drop it into the chat, like why we're congratulating Bibi Netanyahu, what for getting us involved in another regional conflict. Who knows? Maybe the beginning of World War III. Who knows? Why are we thanking and congratulating him? And then he goes on to thank the IDF. And then lastly, but most importantly, he gets around to the American troops who flew those planes. That's the lastly, but also most importantly. I feel like if they were the most important, you would have maybe thanked them before Bibi Netanyahu. And this really gets to the crux of the debate that we are having right now. Because why is MAGA divided? Because this is not what MAGA was supposed to be, okay? MAGA is not just whatever Trump says. Now, even if it completely conflicts with what Trump said yesterday, the divide is very clear that it is Israel first versus America first, okay? And the way that you know that we have been completely infiltrated as a movement by Israel firsters, okay, is because the literal Never Trump movement from 2015, the Neocons, the Warhawks, who put their faces on the cover of whatever they need to put their faces on the cover of to say to Americans, I'm a conservative, but even I agree that it's better that Hillary Clinton is president rather than having Adolf Hitler, right? These were the conservatives, we call them Neocons, who did everything they could, everything, okay, to help get Hillary Clinton elected, because Hillary Clinton is a part of the war class family. We're not left and right anymore, okay? We are war hawks versus everybody else. The war hawks who benefit from nonstop wars. That's why we have the Bushes, the Clintons, the McCains, the McCain family being like chief neocon on the right, and everybody else who are looking around America and going, okay, actually, everything is in decline. There's nothing that has gotten better since 9/11. This country is filled with criminality. We can't even get our streets paved, right? The cities all look dilapidated. Our taxes are going over. What's happening here? Okay. And if you needed a marker of just how insane the class of war hawks are, I'm not kidding. I think these people are insane. They were elated by the Trump announcement. So let me make something very clear. Even if you are a person who believes that we need to get involved in the Middle East perpetually, forever, okay? Even if you're a person who goes, I believe the deep state propaganda and there is always an imminent threat in the Middle East, okay? You would not be cheering when bombs drop. That's something else, right? If I said, okay, well, we drop bombs, you'll go, yes, I'm so excited. Oh, I love you. I love you, baby. And this is not me acting. That is actually what Meghan McCain, John McCain's daughter, and her husband, Ben Dominic, did. They were tweeting and they got so happy and elated that she tweeted to him that she loved him. This is a real tweet from when we're finding out that Iran's been bombed. Okay, can you pull up? So Ben Dominic, who's hated every bit of Trump in the MAGA movement, wrote, 4 years ago, I was told to my face that my marriage had made me too neocon and anti-Trump. But today, those same people are bitching impotently. And I think this president effing rocks. So I spent all of this time hating Trump. I now think he rocks because he's dropping bombs. Yeah. And Meghan McCain gets so overwhelmed with excitement about these bombs being dropped, which have justified their Trump hatred because now Trump sees it their way. She tweets, love you, babe. Bombs are dropping. Love you, babe. I don't even know what's happening. We don't know if we're worthy, but like, this is what we do because, I mean, I'm a McCain, right? I know our trust accounts, they're getting topped up if we go to war, and we're looking like we're going to war. Actually, if you do me a favor, Skylar, pull up the Never Trumpers. It has like a Wikipedia page. We just go through these people. Go try to find any one of them who were not in a state of elation when they learned that we were potentially being dragged into a war. There was not even like, this is a tough decision for the president, but like, you know, the right decision. It was like, giddy, 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 we win. Oh my gosh, yay, war, more war. I love it so much. By individual, I think it's towards the bottom. Yeah, that, by the way, definitively one individual who was absolute besties with John McCain, Lindsey Graham. Of course, he has been saying bomb Iran for seemingly decades, just like bomb Iran. Every time you see him on TV, he's speaking about how we need to keep bombing the Middle East. But I think it's more towards the bottom. But like, these are all them. There's like a full list at the bottom. Never Trumpers. You got Liz Cheney, Mitt Romney. Here we go. Joe Scarborough, Joe Walsh, Max Boot. Go down. Former Never Trumpers. You've got J.D. Vance, Lindsey Graham. I mean, the list goes on. These people were elated. And then they started screaming at us. They started demanding that Tucker Carlson and Steve Bannon, okay, get just kicked out of MAGA because this is real MAGA. Real MAGA understands that John Bolton and Meghan McCain and Liz Cheney, by golly, this has to happen. And so we got to eject the Tucker Carlsons, the Candace Owenses, and the Steve Bannons of the world. Steve Bannon, who quite literally went to prison to have Donald Trump's back. That's Steve Bannon. He's got to go because he's been speaking cautiously. He's been saying, if Trump does this, he's going to have to explain to the base why he's doing that because the base is not for war. Especially these Gen Zers. These people are not for war, so they're going.
The grassroots MAGA base rejects endless wars, forcing leaders like Trump to justify actions that betray campaign promises and the very voters they rely on.
You're a traitor. You are a traitor. The people that really love Trump, the people who understand that he's got to just drop a payload of bombs and not even think about the consequences, right? That's where we're at right now. And like I said, some people were being cautious and the neocon celebrating. I actually love that Steve Bannon fully called out Mark Levin, who's one of these people, is just a mania. He was just so elated by this moment. Scott, do you have that clip of Steve Bannon speaking about Mark Levin? Let's roll that.
That's been positive. For those in the audience, Mark Levin has something up on Twitter tonight. I think, let's just speak for itself. It's so revolting and disgusting, particularly somebody who's never served his country and is not a veteran. His use of language is so inappropriate for someone who's too gutless to serve his nation, right? What he does in trying to smear people about their patriotism and their love of country and their commitment to this nation. Like I said, I think he and I think many people at Fox and the whole network and the Murdoch should be put under investigation as under FAR investigations as basically agents for a foreign government. I think it's quite clear that he's not pitching this in the interests of the United States of America or American citizens, and particularly those in harm's way, right? Since he's never been in harm's way, and I don't think any of his children have been in harm's way, right? It's not a very his love of country and patriotism is just as solid as his being MAGA, which he was one of the most vicious voices of President Trump when we ran in 2016, and then in 2021 he's one of the first people to bail, with all the people at Fox taking paychecks from Rupert Murdoch, who bailed to go to DeSimp and Nikki Haley and that whole crew of neoliberal neocons. President Trump is quite different, and President Trump is returning to the White House, going to get a briefing by his National Security Council on the situation, and we'll see how this develops tonight.
Okay, so just want to say, shocking levels of anti-Semitism, at least according to the new definition. Remember, Congress.
The MAGA coalition stands torn between Israel First neocons cheering bombs and an America First base demanding peace and accountability. Trump's gesture of honoring Netanyahu above U.S. troops crystallizes a deeper betrayal of the no new wars promise that drew many into MAGA. The push to sideline dissenting voices like Tucker Carlson and Steve Bannon exposes a war hawk faction willing to silence patriots who question foreign entanglements. This split defines the future of American patriotism and foreign policy. Drop your take below who deserves America's loyalty.